Shalom.
Shalom. How's everybody doing this morning? First and foremost, we want to give all thanks and praise to the Most High, Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshaya, while we walk. For those who do not speak the Hebrew, that is the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. All right.
Fine.
I am Bishop Taz, here with the Elder Nathaniel of the House of Judah International Fellowship Church. We want to first send our regards to our brothers and sisters, the Elder Johannes, Bishop Michael, and the deacons in Sierra Leone. Shabbat Shalom to you as well. I know we'll be seeing you. They're holding service at the moment, but we'll be seeing them a little bit later in this lesson. This week, we have a lesson entitled The Heavens, right? Last week, we went into a lesson entitled Hades, Hell, the Underworld, right? And we went into it in a little bit different of a sense concerning particularly the construct of Hades itself, right? The way it was built, the way it's constructed, the way that it looks, what it would look like from the outside. But we excluded the details of the bosom of heaven and what we know as quote unquote heaven, right? Mm-hmm. See, the problem is when people talk about heaven, quote unquote, they use it in the singular sense when really they should be using it in the plural sense. Oh, you die and you go to heaven, right? Mm-hmm. There's levels to heaven. There's different places within heaven that require different people. How many of you know that there's certain areas in heaven where all angels can't go? If you're a lower level angel, you can't go to the 7th, 8th, 9th, or 10th heaven. You're simply not allowed. Right? It's like clearance, security clearance. Right? We learned last week that upon death, a man's soul does not go to heaven or to hell as we know it, but rather to a holding place of souls known as what? Hades. Put a 1 in the chat if you remember that. It is here where the neighborhoods of torment or hell and the bosom of Abraham exist. So both the neighborhoods of the bosom of Abraham and the neighborhood of torments exist within Hades. Souls remain in either one of these neighborhoods until the resurrection, where the righteous will obtain the kingdom in their new bodies, whereas the wicked will be cast into the lake of fire with their old ones. How many of you remember the details of the resurrection? Right? For those who are watching this lesson today who did not see the previous lesson, after you finish here today, I suggest that you go and check that out because there's a lot of context. Obviously, we're going to teach it today, so there will be context given to what we read, but you'll get a far deeper understanding of what we're going into by seeing the previous lesson on Hades, hell, and the underworld. Our understanding of quote unquote heaven must be made clear in order for us to fully comprehend what it is that we work for on this side and why it is that the righteous have no need to fear death. Those who are watching online and those who are in the room right now understand that as we live, we are doing a work, Khan. Right. Put a 1 in the chat if you know as we live, we do a work, right? But it's hard to work and continue working over a long period of time when the goal, when the end is not clearly seen. How many of you agree with that? How many of you find it hard to run on a treadmill? I find it very difficult to run on a treadmill. Why? Because you're running in place and it doesn't feel like you're going anywhere. There's no goal. There's no end in sight, right? Whereas if I'm running, I know I've seen it, right? I've seen the end. I know where I'm going. If I'm running on a track, I can see the end, right? Therefore, it gives me the ability to not only know how to pace myself to finish, but also to give me the courage when I'm tired to know I'm much closer than I was, right? And this, in a sense, is what the righteous need. You understand? This is what the righteous need. We have to see the end from where we are. We have to be able to visualize what it is, visualize and conceptualize what it is that we're working for. Why do we speak of death? Why did I say that there's no need for the righteous to fear death? Because doing this work is living or living a life that is righteous according to the word of the Most High is one that would cause many to experience the threat of death or harm. Which goes back to what I just said about Kanye. Mm-hmm. Kanye doesn't fear for his life. Other people do. Notice how whenever somebody brings up Kanye that understands biblical significance, that understands that we're the children of Israel, notice they always say, well, Kanye better watch his back. Notice people say, well, notice other celebrities are like, Kanye, you better like watch yourself. Because saying what he's saying, doing what we do, comes with the threat of death. Did Christ have the threat of death? That's a question. Did Christ die? Did Peter have the threat of death? Did Peter die? Did John the Baptist have the threat of death? Did John the Baptist die? This work comes with the threat of death. Christ said, as in the days of Noah, so shall the coming of the Son of Man be, right? Were they not hunting the righteous during Moses' time, during Noah's time? So yes, being one of the righteous and knowing what we know, specifically speaking about what it is that we know, and actively doing the work about what it is that we know, comes with the threat of death. Elijah was one. Mm-hmm. During Jezebel's time, Jezebel she is known for being a prophet murderer. She murdered prophets. Obadiah was known for protecting prophets. He hid them in a cave, right? Obadiah was a rich man of influence. So he hid the prophets to protect them from Jezebel, right? Thus, knowing that this work comes with the threat of death or harm, it would stand to reason that we should understand why death should no longer be feared. Is everyone following? Put it in the chat if you're following where we're going here. Let's get Hebrews chapter 2, verse 15.
First of all, I just want to say this before we get going. The video keeps pausing. I'm not quite sure why the picture pauses. If anyone out there watching knows how to fix this issue, please send us a message so I can get this straightened out. This happens every week. So yes. let me know something if you know something.
Also, those who are watching, like, share, comment, subscribe.
Yeah, that's
help get this work out there. All right.
Hebrews chapter 2, verse 15. Mm-hmm. For as much then as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, he also himself likewise took part of the same.
So this is speaking specifically about Christ. It says, for as so much as the children are partakers of flesh and blood, what does that mean? We're mortal, right? What is mortality? Mortality means can die, terrestrial, not celestial, the opposite of celestial, right? Mm-hmm. Flesh and blood. So those who believe that Christ did not come according to the seed of Abraham, the flesh and the blood, is an antichrist. It clearly states here that he took part in the same, meaning that he was a mortal man. Read.
That through death he might destroy him that had power of death.
That through death he might destroy him that hath power of death. What does that mean? It means that at one point there was the threat of death that could force someone to do according to the will of Satan. We didn't have the keys, right? How many of you know of the personification of death? This black figure, right? That many feared, right? What this is saying is that this particular being had power of death. Thus, he could threaten one with death, and fear was warranted. But upon Christ's death, he took power over death itself. So what happened? Read.
I'm going to back up a little bit. That through death he might destroy him that had the power of death.
He might destroy him that had the power of death. Read.
That is the devil.
That is the devil.
Verse 15. And deliver them who through fear of death were all their lifetime subject to bondage.
All right. So check this out. It says here that he died to deliver them that through the fear of death were all their life subject to bondage. Now, a lot of people haven't looked at it from this particular angle before. But understand, almost all of the time, the threat of death brings a strong man or woman to their knees. I'm going to say that again. Almost 100% of the time, the threat of death brings a strong man or woman to their knees. This makes them a servant. It makes them a servant to the one who poses the threat. Therefore, the fear of death makes slaves. Is everyone following? Read.
Verse 16. For verily he took not on him the nature of angels, but he took on him the seed of Abraham.
So for this reason, in order to free people from the fear of death or bondage itself, he died. Right? Taking the keys to the pit to give us power over death, meaning what? A resurrection, a return. Khan? Let's go to 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 52.
1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 52. In a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trump, for the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible.
So the dead shall be raised incorruptible. What is this talking about? Last week we went into particularly the resurrection. So it says the dead shall be raised incorruptible. What does that mean? They shall be delivered from their mortal bodies into their immortal bodies. How many of you know that Adam, when he was originally created, was not created to die? How do we know this? Because our bodies heal themselves. How many of you have actually met or known someone who has died of natural causes? See, when one dies of natural causes, that's a reason for saying that's the doctor's way of saying the soul left. There was no ailment. There was no reason for it. But for some reason, their body just stopped working. But the way that our bodies operate innately is one of immortality, right? You get an injury, you heal. You get an injury, your blood clots. You get a cut, your blood clots. Right? All of these things that happen naturally within the body take place because our bodies were originally created to be what? Immortal. But when Adam ate the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, it was poisoned. Therefore, immortality was taken from Adam. It is this immortality, it is this incorruption that will be returned to man upon the resurrection. So the dead shall be raised incorruptible. They shall be raised immortal. Read.
I'm going to back up. For the trumpet shall sound, and the dead shall be raised incorruptible, and we shall be changed.
And we shall be changed. Those who are alive and remain will be changed. And we will see an example of this later in the lesson concerning Enoch in particular. Read.
For this corruptible must put on incorruption.
That this corruptible must put on incorruption, read.
And this mortal must put on immortality.
Mm-hmm.
So when this corruptible shall put on incorruption, and this mortal shall have put on immortality, then shall be brought to pass the saying that is written, death is swallowed up in victory.
Death is swallowed up in victory. Read.
O death, where is thy sting?
Death, where is thy sting?
O grave, where is thy victory?
O grave, where is thy victory? It is Paul's understanding of Christ's sacrifice and our life after this life that prompts him to ask the question that he asks. It's his knowledge of the resurrection and his knowledge of the significance of the death of Christ. He said, death has lost its power, its threat, and the grave is no longer, it's lost its power, it's lost its threat, and the grave is no longer the end because we, being mortal, will be raised in immortality. The process whereof Josephus spoke of in his discourse to the Greeks concerning Hades. How can someone threaten you with a death that is not permanent? Think about that. How can someone threaten you with a death that is not permanent? They can't. If a person put a gun to your head and told you to do something that you knew it wasn't right to do, and you knew that you'd be back, would that threat still have the same power? No, because I'm coming back anyways. And this is the mindset that the righteous have. Why? Because you can kill the body, but my soul remains. And while my soul is in waiting upon the resurrection, I will receive a new body and be raised in incorruption. Therefore, death has lost its sting, and the grave has no victory. Make sense? So this is the knowledge that we have, and this is why we don't fear death. This is why we can do the work that we're doing in confidence and without fear. Because we know, number one, there's a kingdom to be had. That's what we're working for. And number two, we know you can kill the body, but I'll be back again. Let's go to an extract out of the Josephus, Josephus's discourse to the Greeks concerning Hades. Remember last week we skipped over paragraph 3 because it went into particularly the bosom of Abraham, right? Remember, when you die, you go on a 7-year journey that reflects upon your entire life. You go through, it's almost like your life flashing before your eyes, except this is a 7-day period before you are taken either to the left side of Hades or to the right side of Hades. We discussed what happens when you go to the left side, but we never talked about the right. Today, we're going to talk about the right. Go ahead and read that, Oda.
For there is one descent into this region, at whose gate we believe there stands an archangel with a host. Which gate? I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Which gate? Which gate when those pass through that are conducted down by the angels appointed over souls.
What are the angels appointed over the souls? The angel that follows you throughout your entire life. Right? Come on, talk back to me. All right. Read.
They do not go the same way, but the just are guided to the right hand and are led with hymns, sung by the angels appointed over that place.
So all souls that die are conducted down to Hades, but they do not all go to the same place, right? So think of it like this. Your entire job goes on a vacation. You got good workers and you got bad workers. Everybody's going to Florida, right? But not everybody's going to the same part of Florida. These people get taken to Duval, Jacksonville, and the good people get taken to Orlando, right? So yes, everybody's going to the same place for the vacation, But not everyone is going to the same place on that vacation. Read.
Unto a region of light.
Unto a region of light. So they're led unto the righteous are led unto the region of light, whereas the wicked are led to the region of what? Darkness. Read.
In which the just have dwelt from the beginning of the world,
Mm-hmm.
not constrained by necessity,
Mm-hmm.
but ever enjoying the prospect of the good things the good things they see,
Mm-hmm.
and rejoice in the expectation of those new enjoyments in which be particular to every one of them.
So everyone gets according to what they desire. There's no necessity. There's no want. All you enjoy is the prospect of everything that you see, the beauty of where you are, right? And it says that and rejoice in the expectation of those new enjoyments, which will be peculiar to every one of them. It's different for every person. Why? Because every person is different. Everyone likes different things. Shoot, I like mangoes, you like peaches. I got mangoes over here, you got peaches over there. We both having the time of our lives. Nobody's stepping on nobody's toes either. Right? Read.
And esteeming those things beyond what we have here.
And all the things, remember, what we have here on earth is a reflection of what exists within heaven, right? Everything in we know heaven by what we see here in earth, except in the heavens is glorified. It's in its perfect form. So that mango that you may have had here that was delicious ain't got nothing on what you would experience in the bosom of Abraham. Make sense? Read.
With whom there is no place of toil,
No work,
no burning heat,
no burning heat,
no piercing cold,
no piercing cold,
nor are there any briars there.
nor briars. Read.
But the countenance of the land and of the just, which they see, always smiles them,
Mm-hmm.
while they wait for that rest and eternal new life in heaven, which is to succeed this region.
So this is not the last destination. So while you're sitting here enjoying yourself, having a great time, you know that something better is coming at the end of time, at the end of judgment. Such is the opposite for those who are in torments. Their expectation is for things to get much worse. If they could conceptualize in their mind that anything could be worse than what they experience. While they're trying to conceptualize how things could get worse, you would be trying to the righteous would be trying to conceptualize, how can it get much better than this? You mean to tell me it's a mango sweeter and juicier than this one? Right? Read.
This place we call the bosom of Abraham.
This place is called the bosom of Abraham. This is the temporary holding place for the righteous within Hades. And Hades is within the earth. Is everyone following? Put a 1 in the chat if you're following. Baruch has multiple detailed accounts of the heavens. However, Enoch's account of the 10 heavens is far clearer to understand and adds more content and will add more context to Baruch's description of the regions. So we'll be going into Enoch, right? Starting first with the secrets of Enoch, or the second Enoch, translated by R.H. Charles. This is chapter 3, verse 1.
Start here?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Now we're going into the construction of heaven itself. All right? So if you have notes, begin taking them here. Read.
It came to pass, when I had spoken to my sons, these men summoned me, and took me on their wings, and placed me on the clouds.
Mm-hmm.
And lo, the clouds moved.
Mm-hmm.
And again, going higher, I saw the air. And going still higher, I saw the ether. And they placed me in the first heaven.
They placed him in the first heaven. So where is the first heaven? It's within the firmament, right? Read.
And they showed me a very great sea, greater than the earthly sea. They brought before my face the elders and rulers of the stellar orders, and showed me 200 angels who ruled the stars and their services to the heavens.
Okay, so what we're seeing here, right? Because we discussed this before in leisure. Enoch shows us that the first heaven exists just above the firmament. How many of you know what the firmament is? The firmament is what? The ozone layer, right? So just above the ozone layer exists the first heaven. Now we know in the beginning, remember when we read in Genesis chapter 1 in the account of creation, it says that he separated the waters from the waters, right? Meaning he separated the water that we can see from the water that we can't see, right? Liquid, solid, gas, vapor, right? So outside of the ozone layer, outside of the firmament, he sees an ocean. Space is an ocean, is what he's saying, right? There's still water out there, hence why things freeze, but it's not the type of water that we see here. He separated the waters from the waters, right? This waters that he's talking about, we would call in modern science space. So the first heaven is within, quote unquote, space. It is here where he sees angels that govern the duties of the angels who control the weather and seasons. So go ahead and read that part back again concerning the angels who have duty. Chapter 4, verse 1.
Okay. They brought before my face the elders and rulers of the stellar orders, and showed me 200 angels who rule the stars and their services to the heavens.
So they rule the stars and their services to the heavens. All right. So if you have certain stars, right, they have an angel that presides over them and directs them as to where they should go and what they should do. Right. So these are the rulers and elders over the stellar orders, the stars. So these stars that you guys believe are hot balls of gas is what they told you. Those are angels, right? So these angels are given charge over the weather and seasons. Read.
And fly with their wings and come around all those who sail. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
And here I looked down and saw the treasure houses of the snow, and the angels who kept their terrible storehouses, and the clouds whence they come out, and to which they go.
Okay, so we see. So think of it like this, right? You have a storehouse of what we know to be snow, right? So you have the cloud. Excuse my art. I'm being very quick with what I'm doing here, right? And you have the storehouse of snow, right? So this is the cloud, and this is the storehouse of snow. It don't look great, but bear with me here, right? So the angel that is over the storehouse of snow, upon the command of his superior, or what we would know today as a supervisor, the supervisor is given instruction according to the Most High. So the Most High says, okay, I want a blizzard, and I want it here, right? At which point the supervisor would tell the angel that's given authority over the storehouse of snow, hey, dump the snow from this cloud to this particular region. Understood? So all precipitation, all weather are kept in snow in storehouses. Hail, rain, thunder. All these things are kept in storehouses, and they're released upon command of the Most High. Is everyone following? Is everyone following? All right, read.
All right. They showed me the treasure houses of the dew, like the oil of the olive, and the appearance of its form, as all of the flowers of the earth. Further, many angels guarding the treasure houses of these things, and how they are made, and how they are made to shut and to open.
So it's like a door, right? As commanded, they open the door, and these particular elements are released from the heavens. So the first heaven is a place where, number one, they're given charge according to where they're given charge according to, number one, where the stars are supposed to go. right? And they're also given charge as to what is to be released at what times and when, right? So already we see a different aspect of what we know as nature, right? Now, obviously, these are things that we cannot see. But what you're going to find is that there's a lot of mechanical workings of heaven that to us look like supernatural events. Think of it like a movie. You know how it is when, you're watching the movie now that it's in cinema, now that it's in theaters, and you're like, man, them special effects is on point. But then you look at the movie without the special effects and you're like, you're sort of like, oh, this is different than what I thought. What we're seeing here is the movie without special effects. When you see that snow come from these clouds without the special effects, what you're seeing is a door of snow open and fall through the clouds. Make sense? Just sort of trying to put it in context. Read. Now, this is the first heaven, right? So the first heaven, what happens? You have the storehouses of the storehouses of precipitation that's within the clouds, just above the ozone layer, and you have the elders and the rulers of the stars that give charge according to where the stars are supposed to go and what it is it's supposed to do. Supervisors and workers, right? Read. This is 2 Enoch chapter 7, verse 1.
And those men took me and led me up to the second heaven.
So now he's been taken up to the seventh heaven, to the second heaven. Salakia, read.
And showed me darkness greater than earthly darkness. And there I saw prisoners hanging, watched, waiting the great and boundless judgment.
Whoa, okay, wait, hold up. Heaven ain't supposed to look like this. Is what many are thinking. This ain't supposed to be heaven. What you mean, prisoners hanging? It's supposed to be glorious hymns and treasures and mansions. Nah. Second heaven is different. Go ahead and read that one more time. It says that they took him up to the second heaven and he saw a darkness. Read.
And showed me darkness greater than earthly darkness. And there I saw prisoners hanging, watched, waiting the great and boundless judgment.
So these in the second heaven is where what we know as remember, how many of you guys remember the angels that fell with Lucifer? These are where the angels that fell with Lucifer are bound. The second heaven is a prison. The second heaven is a prison. And here, these fallen angels await their judgment, their final judgment, which is the lake of fire. Read.
And these angels were dark looking, more than earthly darkness, and incessantly making weeping through all hours. And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these incessantly tortured?
So this is their prison. Their prison is separate from the prison that the souls are kept in. Read.
And they answered me, these are God's apostates who obeyed not God's commands and took counsel with their own will and turned away with their prince.
Who is that prince? Exactly. Lucifer. Read.
Who is also fastened in the fifth heaven.
So Satan is fastened in the fifth heaven. We'll be getting to that in a moment, right? So Satan or Lucifer himself is fastened within the fifth heaven, while those who agreed and went along with him, the fallen angels that went along with him, are bound in the second heaven, imprisoned and tortured until their final judgment. Read.
And I felt great pity for them, and they saluted me and said unto me, man of God, pray for us to the Lord. And I answered them, who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? Who knows?
He said, Enoch says, they ask him, he sees the angels and he feels pity for them because of what they're doing. And they say, hey, Hey, bro, pray for us. And Enoch says, who am I, a mortal man, that I should pray for angels? He was like, you're immortal. What can I do for you? But what does he go forward to say? Read.
Who knows whether I go or what will befall me?
He's like, what if my destiny is to be right here with you? He was like, my judgment isn't determined yet. Who am I to pray for your redemption for what you've done when my fate isn't when my fate isn't even sealed yet? Check this out, read.
Or who will pray for me?
He was like, and if I do fall, who's gonna pray for me? He was like, you won't be praying for me. You ain't gonna be thinking about me. Right? Which sort of puts into context sort of the mindset that Enoch is enduring at this moment. Keep in mind, he's never seen this. He's seeing what no one has seen up until this point. Read. This is Enoch chapter 2 Enoch chapter 8, verse 1.
And those men took me thence and led me up to the third heaven.
So one thing that I wanted to establish is the second heaven proves the naivety of those who believe that when one dies, they go to heaven. The question that would stem from that, right? From that belief here is, which heaven? When someone says you die and go to heaven, or you die and go to hell, the question would be, which heaven? The heaven that they could be referring to could also be a place of torture. So the term heaven blanketly is not always positive, just as Hades is not always negative. Remember, we went over last week, Hades, prior to last week's lesson, was believed to be a place of pure torment. It was a place where only bad people went, right? And it was through last week's lesson that we found, no, Hades is not a blatantly a wholly negative place, just like heaven is not entirely positive. Is everyone following? Put a 1 in the chat if that makes sense. Go ahead and read.
2 Enoch chapter 8, verse 1.
Mm-hmm.
And these men took me thence and led me up on the third heaven.
So they took me thence and led me up to the third heaven. What's in the third heaven? Read.
And placed me there. And I looked downwards and saw the produce of these places, such as has never been known for goodness. For I saw all the sweet flowering trees and beheld their fruits, which were sweet smelling, and all the foods borne by them bubbling with fragrant exaltation. Oh,
okay. So this sounds like heaven, right? To some of you, this sounds like the heaven that you know and love. Read.
And in the midst of the trees that of life, in that place whereon the Lord sits, when he goes up into paradise, and the tree of infallible goodness and fragrance.
Now, that word ineffable means undescribable. Too great to describe, right? So he says that, and this tree of ineffable goodness and fragrance, read.
And adorned more than ever existing thing. And on all sides, in form, gold looking and vermilion, and fire-like, and covers all. Let me see. And it has produce from all fruit.
So this is a tree that produces every fruit, right? How many of you know what this place is? Exactly. Perfect. Read.
Its root is in the garden that is at the earth's end.
The garden that is at the earth's end. Read.
And paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility.
And paradise is between corruptibility and incorruptibility. Who knows what that means? This particular region is trapped between corruption and incorruption, physical and spiritual, life and death. We're going to see what that means in a minute. Read.
And two springs come out, which send forth honey and milk.
So two springs send forth honey and milk. Two rivers, one river of honey and one river of milk. Read.
And their springs send forth oil and wine.
And another two springs set forth two rivers, one of oil and one of wine. Read.
And they separate into four parts.
They separate into four parts. Milk, honey, oil, wine. Read.
And go around with quiet course.
Go around with quiet course. They have no sound. Even though they're rushing, they have no sound. Read.
And go down into the paradise of Eden.
And go down into the paradise of what?
Eden.
Where is Eden located, people? Right here on earth. So where is the third heaven? Right here on earth. Right? Now, a lot of people are probably saying, I've never seen it. How can it be right here on earth? We're going to get into that in a moment. Right? We're going to get into that in a moment. But keep in mind what it says here about the paradise of Eden. It says, and go down into and these four rivers in the quiet course go down to the paradise of Eden. Read.
Between corruptibility and incorruptibility.
Between corruptibility and incorruptibility. Why does Enoch keep saying between corruptibility and incorruptibility? Why does he keep making this distinction? I'm going to get to that in a moment. Read.
And thence they go forth along the earth.
They go forth along the earth. Read.
And have a revolution to their circle, even as other elements.
Mm-hmm.
And here there is no unfruitful tree, and every place is blessed.
And every place is blessed. Read.
And there are 300 angels, very bright, who keep the garden.
Mm-hmm.
And with incessant sweet singing and ever silent voices serve the Lord throughout all days and hours.
So we see here that the angels that are within Eden keep it, meaning that they make sure that everything is copacetic and clean, right? They don't have to toil because everything is fruitful, right? But they keep the garden throughout all days and hours. Read.
And I said, how very sweet is this place.
Mm-hmm.
And those men said unto me, this place, O Enoch, is prepared for the righteous.
It's prepared for the who?
The righteous.
Read.
Who endure all manner of offense from those that exasperate their souls.
What does exasperate their souls mean? It means the threat of death. Those who endure to the end receive the Garden of Eden. Right? This is for those who are living in this time, the end times, and make it until the end of times, enduring the threat of death. Read.
Who avert their eyes from iniquity.
And avert their eyes from sin, breaking the law. Read.
And make righteous judgment.
Make righteous decisions. Read.
And give bread to the hungry.
They give charity. Read.
And cover the naked with clothing.
Charity. Read.
And raise up the fallen.
Raise up the fallen. Read.
And help injured orphans.
Mm-hmm.
And who walk without fault before the face of the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And serve him alone.
Mm-hmm.
And
that which goes along with the Shema. Hear, O Israel, the Lord our God is one. Read.
And for them is prepared this place for eternal inheritance.
And for them is prepared this place of eternal inheritance. This is post-resurrection. I'm going to put it like this. This place is stuck between incorruption and corruption, right? However, corruption cannot enter into incorruption. Some of that went over some of y'all heads. Immortality can't exist in the same place at the same time. Hence why Adam had to leave the garden. Because when he ate the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, he was no longer incorruptible. His incorruption became corruption. Therefore, he had to leave the garden. So it is not until the resurrection and until the righteous are changed that we can enter back into incorruption. Now, Enoch goes to the third heaven, which is located on the earthly plane we know to be Eden, Within Eden, we see 4 rivers of oil, wine, milk, and honey. We see the tree, and we also see the tree of life. What is the tree of life? The tree of life is almost like what we call in medicine a panacea. It cures all illnesses, it heals all disease, and it prevents aging. So when we get into the kingdom of heaven, everyone will come at the same time of the year. Everyone will come to the tree of knowledge of good and evil and eat one leaf off the tree of knowledge of good and evil, and they will be completely restored for another year. Make sense? This tree is present within within the Garden of Eden. Enoch mentions multiple times that this garden borders between corruption, corruptibility, and incorruptibility. What does that mean? Let's get 2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2.
2 Corinthians chapter 12, verse 2. I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago. Whether in the body, I cannot tell. Whether out of the body, I cannot tell.
He says, I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago. So he met someone, right? Now, remember in the previous lesson concerning the punishments of hell, we talked about how Paul was also taken on this journey through the heavens and the hells, right? And it was in this same place where he met who? Enoch. He met Enoch after he had been transfigured or changed, right? So check out what Paul says here. He says, I knew a man in Christ above 14 years ago, whether in the body, I cannot tell, or whether out of the body, I cannot tell. So this person was trapped between what? Corruptibility and incorruptibility. Was he mortal or was he immortal? He couldn't tell. Same way as Enoch was in the Garden of Eden, the third heaven, he said it was trapped between corruptibility and incorruptibility. Is it starting to make sense? Read.
Such a one caught up to the third heaven.
So such a one caught up so the person that he knew in Christ above 14 years ago was caught up to the third heaven, as we just read here. So the person that Paul is talking about that he knew above 14 years ago, what happened to Paul 14 years ago, above 14 years ago? He was knocked off his horse on the way to Damascus. This was where Christ took him on that journey, right? Paul was sitting there laying on the ground, and in that moment between consciousness and unconsciousness, Christ took him on a journey. And on this journey, he meets Enoch. And Enoch tells him about his journey to the third heaven. Read.
And I knew such a man, whether in the body or out of the body, I cannot tell. God knoweth. He
knew Enoch, but he didn't know whether he knew him in corruptibility or incorruptibility. Did I physically meet him or did I spiritually meet him? God knoweth. Read.
How that he was caught up into paradise. I heard unspeakable words, which is unlawful for a man to utter.
So what Paul is talking about here, what is Paul doing? What does Paul do here? He confirms the validity of the second book of Enoch. So in a matter of 2 verses, Paul manages to prove that the second book of Enoch is actually a valid book. Put a 1 in the chat if you understand. That means that the book of Enoch is not false. It's a real book. And Paul was reading from it. So this man who Paul met, we know to be, Paul met this man, Enoch, when he was knocked off his horse on the road to Damascus. And Enoch would go on to write a full account. And what we'll see at the end of this account, in the secret book of Enoch, is Enoch he actually sits and communes with the Most High. And actually, the Most High actually discusses with Enoch what brought him to the point of making creation, creating what was spiritual, what wasn't physical, into something physical. Because keep in mind, the Most High is outside of time. So prior to the creation of the heavens and the earth, it was just him. It was just the consciousness of the Most High. So he sits and he tells Enoch what brought him to the point to conceive in his mind the idea of making something physical. Right? We know that the third heaven was once visible here on earth, but was hidden by the Most High after the angels were set to guard it after Adam's sin. Right? So there's angels set before the Garden of Eden. How do we know this? Line must be upon line, precept must be upon precept. Let's get Genesis chapter 3, verse 24 real quick.
Genesis chapter 3, verse 24.
Yep.
So he drove out the man.
He drove out Adam. Read. And
he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
So after Adam was removed from the Garden of Eden, he set 2 cherubims at the door of the Garden of Eden with flaming swords and a twirling motion to prevent man from entering again. To prevent corruption from entering incorruption. Precept. We have Numbers chapter 22, verse 27. You want to take a break here?
I have to.
Okay.
Hold on. Well,
we'll take a break here.
Yeah.
We're gonna take a quick break and come back.
Christ coming back. When he do, we bring it fire. You don't wanna get burned. You better side with the right. Every day we strive hard. To keep the laws and commandments. You don't keep them or believe in them.
You better listen.
Homeboy, you gon' vanish.
Hey!
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when they come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth. What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when they come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth. First thing first, gotta praise the Most High for giving me His truth in a world full of lies. We all know sin at an all-time high. If you don't plan on repenting, damn, boy, you gon' die. Everybody doing what they wanna do. Tell me who you worship, who you praying to. You gon' hate it, but I gotta say it. It ain't the Most High, your God is Satan. Yeah, change you don't want to. You in love with that demon that's within you. Yeah, I'ma have to befriend you, help you out, cause that is what friends do. 2/3 got a title, and you don't wanna be a part of that. Please repent and turn from your wicked ways, and that's all I gotta say, cause Christ coming back.
Christ coming back.
When he do it, bring it fire.
When he do it, bring it fire.
You don't wanna get burned.
You don't wanna get burned.
You better side with the right.
You better jump up on his side.
Every day we strive hard.
Every day we strive hard.
To keep the laws and commandments.
Keep the laws and commandments.
You don't keep them or believe in them.
Boy, you better listen.
Homeboy, you gon' vanish.
Hey!
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when it come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth. What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when it come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth.
What you gonna do when he come through? Thought it was a game, now the joke's on you. You headed for them flames, let them burn on you. Gon' feel a lot of shame, no one to blame but you. You had a choice, but you would not apply. When you was alive, you didn't feel the Most High. Now you going down, headed to the left side, where you gon' hear some screams and a whole lot of crying. Yeah, and that's gonna be forever. That's gonna be forever, 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 ever, forever, ever. Look, you ever put your hand on the stove while it burning? That's the feeling that your soul gonna feel for eternity. I just pray you change while you got the opportunity. You only got one life, what you gonna do with it? Yeah, a lot of y'all playing with a higher. I can barely take the sun, they ain't trying to feel the fire.
Christ coming back.
Christ coming back.
When he do it, bring it fire.
When he do it, bring it fire.
You don't wanna get burned.
You don't wanna get burned.
You better side with the right.
You better jump up on his side.
Every day we strive hard.
Every day we strive
To
hard.
keep the laws and
Keep the
commandments.
laws and
You
commandments.
don't keep them or believe in them.
Boy, you better listen.
Homeboy, you gon' vanish.
Hey!
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when it come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth.
All right, everyone, we are back. Make sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and we're going to jump back into the lesson. All right, we're going to go back up to Genesis chapter 3 and read Genesis chapter 3, verse 24 once again.
Genesis chapter 3, verse 24. So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubims, and a flaming sword which turned every way to keep the way of the tree of life.
So after removing Adam from the garden, after being corrupted, right? I'm gonna take another quick break.
Oh, announce it.
Yeah, we're gonna need another quick break real quick. We're gonna take a quick break. We'll be right back.
Technical issues. Bear with us. Be right with you.
Christ coming back.
Christ coming back.
When he do, we bring it fire.
When he do, we bring it fire.
You don't wanna get burned.
You don't wanna get burned.
Better side with the
Better
righteous.
jump up on his side.
Every day we strive hard
Every day we strive
to
hard.
keep the laws and
Keep the
commandments.
laws and
If you
commandments.
don't keep them, I believe in them.
Boy, you better listen.
Boy, you gon' vanish.
Hey!
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when they come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth. What you gonna do?
What you gonna do?
What you gonna do when they come for you? Tell me what you gonna do.
What you gonna do?
Better stop playing games, get you some of this truth. First thing first, gotta praise the Most High for giving me His truth in a world full of lies. We all know sin at an all-time high. If you don't plan on repenting, damn, boy, you gon' die. Everybody doing what they wanna do. Tell me who you worship, who you praying to. You gon' hate it, but I gotta say it. It ain't the Most High, your God is Satan. Yeah, change you don't want to. You in love with that demon that's within you. Yeah, I'ma have to befriend you, help you out, cause that is what friends do. 2/3 got a title, and you don't wanna be a part of that. Please repent and turn from your wicked ways, and that's all I gotta say, cause Christ coming back.
Christ coming back.
When he do it, bring it fire.
When he do, we bring it fire.
All right, we are back. Salakia for the issues. We're trying to navigate through this as best we can, but we're gonna keep it pushing. So Genesis chapter 3 verse 24. Let's go ahead and get that one more time for everybody. All right.
So he drove out the man, and he placed at the east of the Garden of Eden cherubim.
So the man that he removed was Adam, and he removed Adam because he had eaten from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil in disobedience against the Most High. At which point that he went from being incorruption or immortal to mortal. Right. So when he lost his immortality, he was no longer allowed into immortality because why? Notice it said to keep the way of the Garden of Eden. Right. Go ahead and now we're going to go ahead and go to Numbers chapter 22, verse 27, because what we see here is that even though the access to the Garden of Eden was removed by the Most High, it was never taken off of this plane. Let's get Numbers chapter 22, verse 27.
Numbers chapter 22, verse 27.
Mm-hmm.
And when the ass saw the angel of the Lord, she fell under Balaam, and Balaam's anger was kindled. And he smote the ass with the staff.
Okay, so what happened here? So essentially, this donkey sees something that her master does not see, right? So as he's trying to push her in this direction, she refuses to go. So Balaam becomes angry and smites her again. Read.
Verse 28. And the Lord opened the mouth of the ass, and she said unto Balaam, what have I done unto thee, that thou hast smitten me these 3 times?
This donkey says, listen, why do you keep hitting me? What did I do to you? The donkey doesn't know that Balaam can't see what she sees. She's like, why you keep hitting me? Read.
And Balaam said to the ass, because thou hast mocked me.
Because you've mocked me. How did she mock him? Read.
I would that there was a sword in my hand, for I would have killed thee.
Read.
And the ass said unto Balaam, am I not thine ass, upon which thou hast ridden ever since I was thine to this day?
She said, listen, you've depended on me. I've worked for you since you acquired me. So why all of a sudden would I make a mockery of you? Read.
Was I ever wont to do unto thee?
Have I ever done this unto you before? Read.
And he said, nay.
He said, nah, you never done anything like this to me before. Verse 31. Check out what happens here.
Then the Lord opened the eyes of Balaam, and he saw the angel of the Lord standing in the way, and the sword drawn in his hand. And he bowed down his head and fell flat on his face.
Had the donkey allowed Balaam to continue going in the direction he wanted to go, the angel would have killed him and the donkey. So the donkey was actually protecting her master and herself from death. But notice what we see going on here. It took for the Most High opening the eyes of Balaam in order for Balaam to be able to see not only the Garden of Eden itself, but the two angels that were guarding it. Proving that not only is the Garden of Eden still on this plane, but it's also invisible. It was hidden. Read.
Verse 32. And the angel of the Lord said unto him, wherefore hast thou smitten thine ass 3 times?
The angel said, why are you hitting this donkey? Read.
Behold, I went out to withstand thee because thy way is perverse before me.
You're going the wrong way. Read.
And the ass saw me and turned from me these 3 times. Unless she had turned from me, surely now also I had slain thee and saved her alive.
He said, actually, he says here, if you had kept going in the direction that you were going, I would have slain you and left the ass alone. Right? So we see here that, yes, the Garden of Eden, or the third heaven, as Enoch describes it, still exists on the earthly plane, but it is not to be crossed into by corruption or mortality. Hence why it is hidden. Thus, the third heaven, or the Garden of Eden, lies between corruptibility and incorruptibility. So that is the meaning of corruptibility and incorruptibility. There is a barrier there that one can't see and one cannot cross into without death. 2 Enoch chapter 10, verse 1.
And those 2 men led me up to the northern side and showed me there a very terrible place.
Now notice he has not left the third heaven. He just went to a further spot within the same third heaven. But check this out. This is where your perception of hell changes. Read.
And there were all manner of tortures.
Whoa. Tortures in heaven? That can't be right. See, where he's been escorted here is to torments within Hades. So Hades is an extension of the third heaven. So in essence, the third heaven exists here on earth. Anything that exists here on the earthly plane is a part of the third heaven. Read.
All manner of tortures in that place. Cruel darkness and illuminated gloom. And there is no light there, but murky fire constantly flaming aloft. And there is a fiery river coming forth. And that whole place is everywhere fire. And everywhere there is frost and ice.
What we know as Antarctica. Under Antarctica, that is a judgment. It is a judgment place. Read.
Frost and ice. thirst, and shivering, while the bonds are very cruel, and the angels fearful, merciless, bearing angry weapons, merciless torture. And I said, Woe, woe! How very terrible is this place! Those men said unto me, This place, O Enoch, is prepared for those who dishonor God, who on earth practice sin against nature.
Practice sin against nature. What is sin against nature? It's any going aside from what was naturally established by the Most High. Right? So anything that goes against the nature of the Most High, that means eating pork, is against the nature of the Most High. Pigs were not made to be eaten. Sharks were not made to be eaten. Neither were octopus. Shrimp, crab, lobster, not created to be eaten. That's against nature. So anything that is opposite according to what the Most High created exists here. Read.
Sin against nature, which is child corruption after the sodomitic fashion.
What is that? Child molestation. Specifically speaking of child molestation in the what they call today the homosexual sense. How many of you know that over 75% of the LGBTQ community were sexually abused as a child? How many of you knew that? Put a 1 in the chat if you knew that. So what this is talking about here is a judgment specifically for those who executed this form of child abuse against children. It says, which is child corruption after the sodomitic fashion. Y'all didn't know that existed, did you? Read.
Magic making.
Sorcerers, shamans. Read.
Enchantments.
Read.
Devilish witchcrafts.
Enchantments and devilish witchcrafts. Voodoo. Santeria. All those things, all people who practice these things have a place in torments. Read.
And who boast of their wicked deeds. Stealing, lies, calamities, envy, rancor, fornication.
Rancor is causing ruckus. Read.
Fornication, murder, and who accursed steal the souls of men, who seeing the poor take away their goods and themselves wax rich.
Oh, so there's a place for those people too. Remember, we went over it. There was a conversation that I had with the brothers where they had a particular scripture, a particular chapter in Proverbs that we read, where it was talking about it's not about how, it's about how you get rich, right? The methods by which you obtain wealth. It says here, seeing the poor take away their goods and themselves wax rich. Dave Chappelle said something. He was like, I don't care how they. He was like, how they get the food is one thing, but how they eat is what I'm annoyed with. Is what angers me. Right? He said the evil and the wickedness by which they receive, or how they gain their riches, or how they allow themselves to be propelled forward in this society. Who are you willing to now? There's a saying in this world where it says, "What are you willing to do?" You can only go as far in this life as you can only go as far as this life as who you're willing to step on or over. There's a man named Brett Favre. And Elder, I don't know if you heard about what happened there. Brett Favre is from Mississippi, the poorest state in the country. Did you hear about what he did?
What's that? Oh, tomorrow the money.
Yeah, it was stealing money from poor people. Stealing money from poor people and donating the money to his alma mater so that he could look like a saint.
Wow.
Keep in mind, he's made millions. He could have easily taken some of his millions and donated it. But instead, he decided to steal from poor people, steal welfare money from poor people, and use it to make itself look like such a great person.
Wow.
There's a place for him. taking away the poor, taking away the goods of the poor to wax themselves rich. Read.
Injuring them for other men's goods.
Injuring them for other men's goods. So that's not just for the people who are doing this, but for their henchmen. The people working for them. Read.
Who being able to satisfy the empty made the hungering to die.
To satisfy the empty made the hungering to die. Read.
Being able to clothe, strip the naked, and who knew not their creator.
So you could have fed the hungry. You had enough. You had more than enough. Yet you allowed the hungering to die. You could have clothed the naked, but you allowed them to remain cold and knew not their creator. Read.
And bowed to the soulless and lifeless God.
Those who serve idols. Graven images. Read. What does it say about these graven images? Read.
Who cannot see or hear.
You got these statues that you pray and bow to, but they have no life. They can't hear. They can't see. They can't eat. They can't breathe. They can only do what you afford them to do. It's like an action figure. Without you moving it, it's not going to do anything. It says you bow and you serve these soulless and lifeless gods that cannot see nor hear. Read.
Vain God.
Vain means empty, useless, valueless. Read.
Who also built hewn images.
You're cutting trees. You're cutting stone. Read.
And bow down to unclean handiwork.
And bow down to the unclean handiwork. You are serving the creature rather than the creator. You're serving a stone that's shaped in the shape of a little fat man who you never met or seen and has never done anything for you, but you refuse to serve the God who created him and the stone that you use to make the statue of him out of. How much sense does that make? Read.
For all these is prepared this place among these.
For all these is prepared this place among these. Read.
For eternal inheritance.
For an eternal inheritance. Eden is not the extent of the third heaven. As we discovered in our previous lesson, torments known as hell, as well as the bosom of Abraham, are both confined within Hades, which is in the depths of the earth. Thus, it would stand to reason that both of these locations would be included within the third heaven. Enoch describes what is the lake of fire that is within Hades, what qualifies one to be sentenced to this eternal judgment. So what we just read is the final judgment, the lake of fire. Enoch 11, verse 1.
Those men took me and led me up to the fourth heaven.
So now he's being taken to the fourth heaven. Read.
And showed me all the successive goings and all the rays of light of sun and moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I measured their goings and captured their light and compared their light and saw that the sun's light is greater than the moon's light.
So the fourth heaven is where the sun and the moon and all related angelic beings dwell. So now he's in the fourth heaven. He's back above the firmament. He's actually just under the firmament, right? So here he finds the sun and the moon, right? He begins to take his measurements. Where do we find those measurements? We found those measurements when we did our lesson on the Hebrew calendar, right? How time works according to the Most High. Read.
Verse 3. Its circle and wheels on which it goes always.
Whoa, remember I told you about special effects, a movie with special effects and a movie without one? See, the sun, to us, when we look at it, it moves throughout the sky as if it's just floating there. But what Enoch describes here, read that again.
Verse 3.
Mm-hmm.
Its circle and the wheels on which it goes always.
It says its circle and the wheels on which it goes always. Right? So how many of you have seen a globe before? How many of you seen a globe before? Put a one in the chat if you've seen a globe before. You have the globe itself, and you have the wheels and gears in which it is confined, right? Now, outside of these wheels and gears, you have the same construct, right? So you have the earth and you have the wheels and gears on which the sun sits as it rotates around the earth, right? So its position every year is fixed. So you have the earth and you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And in each of these, right? Because keep in mind you have six portals on each side, 12 portals in all, right? And the sun here enters and exits through each portal. So this is essentially what the track looks like. It enters one side and exits the other side, right? So think about this. These are like metal supports, and all the sun does is rotate on those over and over and over again, right? Go ahead and read.
Like the wind going past with very marvelous speed.
Mm-hmm. So it's moving. So for him, now keep in mind, what does the Bible say about time? It says that one day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and 1,000 years is one day. That means that according to the Most High, it's only one day has gone past, while under the firmament in our realm, 1,000 years has gone by. So the reason why Paul is seeing the sun move so quickly is because he's outside of the time that we are confined to. Make sense? So what he's seeing is years and years go by. This is why he's saying with marvelous speed, day and night, it has no rest. So you see it going like this, whereas for us, we're still in our normal plane of time. Right? So what we established, you have the earth, and then you have metal, what you can look at as metal rings like gears. And as the sun goes across these gears, it rotates in and out of these gates, right? So its position is fixed every single year. Think about it like you see in special effects, the person is flying. But then you remove the special effects and there's wires connected. Right? These are the sun's wires. Read.
I'm going to back up a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Like the wind going past with very marvelous speed, and day and night has no rest.
Mm-hmm.
Like the passage and return are accompanied by 4 great stars, and each star has under it 1,000 stars. To the right of the sun, at the right of the sun's wheel, 4 to the left, each having under it 1,000 stars.
Okay, so we know that the east is right? And we know that the west is left, right? So what we're seeing here, what he's describing is as the sun rises, we got earth, and you have the sun. And as the sun rises in the east and it rotates west, what follows it are the stars and constellations, right? So essentially, after the sun is on its wheel, right? So it's moving from the east to the west as it does, but pulling behind it to its right, coming with darkness is what? The moon and the stars. So darkness as the sun falls is not far behind. Is that making sense? Put a 1 in the chat if you're following, right? So we're starting to see the construct of what this looks like. Now we're going to get into something pretty interesting as we continue to observe here. Go ahead and read.
Altogether 8,000, issuing with the sun continually.
Following the sun continually. Read.
Verse 5. And by day 15 myriads of angels attended, and by night 1,000, and 6 winged ones issue with the angels before the sun's will into the fiery flames, and 1,000 angels kindle the sun and set its light. Okay,
so the sun is actually lit, right? It's lit, and it's lit, and its fiery flames are given a certain amount of power or heat that radiates based off of what the Most High commands. Right? So if the Most High wants it to be scorching hot, they set it to scorching hot. If he wants if he wants less heat, there will be less heat, right? Now we're going to see in a moment that where does the light of the sun come from? Does anybody know? If you know in the chat, put it in the chat. Where does the light from the sun come from? Does anybody know? Where does that light come from? Comes from Christ, the bringer of light, the giver of light. So the sun is actually charged by Christ. You following? Let's get Enoch chapter 12, verse 1.
And I looked and saw other flying elements of the sun, whose names are phoenixes and chalkidry.
Right, so you got Phoenix and chalkidry. Read.
Marvelous and wonderful, with feet and tails in the form of a lion, and a crocodile's head. Their appearance is in purple, like in the rainbow. Their size is 900 measures. Their wings is alike those of angels. Each has 12, and they attend and accompany the sun, bearing heat and dew, as it is ordered from God.
So Phoenix and chalkidry are the ones who bear heat and dew, both of which come with what? The sun's rising. Right? Comes with the sun's rising. So these two things accompany the sun and bring heat and dew with its coming and with its going. Read.
Thus, the sun revolves and goes.
What's that word?
Revolves.
What's that word?
Revolves.
Keep that in mind. The sun revolves. Read.
Revolves and goes, and rises under the heaven.
And it rises under the heaven. So it says that the sun rises, which means that it goes where? Up, right? Read.
And its course goes under the earth.
And it goes where?
Under the earth.
Up and down. Not around. Up and down. That's going to keep in mind. That plays an important part into what we're going to go into next. Read.
With the light of its rays incessantly.
With the light of its rays incessantly, which means that the sun never goes dark. It never stops working. Why is that important? We're going to get into that in a minute. The fourth heaven is where the sun and the moon and all related angelic beings dwell. The sun has a wheel according to its course and seasons. We know that the sun enters 12 portals. It enters 6 portals in the east and exits 6 portals in the west, enters and exits either side as it revolves, right? Following the sun from east to west are the stars and constellations that appear in the night until the sun's reappearance in the east, right? So the sun and moon's courses are the sun and the moon's courses are both described in great detail here. Pay close attention here. Let's get Enoch chapter 12, verse 1.
Those men bore me away to the east and placed me at the sun's gates, where the sun goes forth according to the regulation. What's that?
Okay, good. We already read that. Okay, so go ahead and read chapter 13, verse 1.
Those men bore me away to the east and placed me at the sun's gates, where the sun goes forth according to the regulation of the seasons and the circuit of the months of the whole year, and the number of the hours, day and night. Okay, so who remembers how, according to the Hebrew calendar, how many hours are in a day? It's 18. You're close. Half of when the day is divided, when it's 9 parts day, 9 parts night. That's 9 hours of daylight and 9 hours of darkness. So the sun, based off of the season that they're in, enters and exits certain portals to meet those requirements. Right? So that means that the sun, at the beginning of every year, enters the first portal and exits the first portal in the east and in the west. Why? Because it needs to be perfectly 9 hours day, 9 hours night. But once it goes to 10 hours day and 8 hours night, the sun has to go through the first portal and then the second portal. When it goes to
11 hours day and 7 hours night, it has to go from the first portal to the third portal, right? So that it can meet those requirements. Now, Enoch states here that there's that the revolution of the sun Enoch's statement about the revolution of the sun gives us an understanding on the shape of the earth. Now, some people are like, revolution, how does that give you the information on the shape of the earth? Follow me here. Follow me closely. Enoch states that the sun rises under heaven. Under heaven is under the firmament. We know that the first heaven is just above the firmament. So just under the firmament is the sun and the moon. It says that it rises under heaven, it goes up, and then it proceeds to go under the earth, falls, taking its light with it. Right? So if the earth is flat, follow me here. If the earth is flat, if the flat earth theories are true, why is it when the sun goes under the earth, there isn't complete darkness or night across the entire planet? Keep in mind, we have a body in Sierra Leone, right? They're 6 hours ahead of us, I believe. Mm-hmm. So usually when we're getting into our day, it's nighttime there. See, now normally what they'll say is, well, the earth is a table, right? This is usually what they describe. They describe a table. This is the earth, right? And they say that the sun levitates over the earth. And as it rotates and goes around, it provides sun to different parts on the earth and other parts darkness. See, the problem with that idea here is that Enoch states that the sun doesn't go around the earth. It goes up and under the earth. So that means while the sun is under the earth, why isn't the entire planet dark? See, we know the fact is that there's no flat earth, right? The definition of revolve means to move in a circular motion, right? There's two circular motions. There's a horizontal circular motion and there's a vertical circular motion. Right? Two circular motions, vertical, up and down, vertical, horizontal, side to side. But what we notice here is that Enoch makes it very clear that the revolution that he's talking about is up and under. It's vertical. Right? So we see in the context of the revolution, it's not around the earth in a horizontal sense, but rather up and under in the vertical sense. This will automatically, by default, change the shape of the object subject to the revolution. I'm going to say that again. This would automatically, by default, change the shape of the object subject to the revolution. Because keep in mind, as the sun, this is the earth. As the sun goes up and under, it's providing light at all times. Which means that as the sun goes around and pulls the night with it, the sun is now under the earth, providing light to the bottom side of the earth, and the top side is dark. Hence why you have some places where it's night in the eastern world, and it's bright on the other side of the world. That's not possible with the flat earth. It's not possible with the flat earth. Is everyone following?
God.
2 Enoch chapter 13, verse 1.
Verse 2.
Verse 2.
And I saw 6 gates open, each gate having 61 stadia and a quarter of 1 stadia. And I measured them truly, and understood their size to be so though which the sun goes forth and goes to the west, and is made even, and rises throughout all the months, and turns back again from 6 gates, according to the succession of the seasons.
And it returns again through 6 gates according to the succession of the seasons. So it enters and exits gates in the east and the west to oblige the season that it's in. Read.
Thus, of the whole year finished after the returns of the 4 seasons. And again, those men led me away to the western part.
So now they take him, because keep in mind, he's seeing the sun from the east right now, not from the west. So why is it that Enoch can't see the sun from the east as it goes under the earth and provides light to the underside of the earth? It's because the earth is round, people. If it was flat, he'd be able to see the sun. But as he views the sun from the east, he can't see it once it falls in the west. Read, but check out what he sees in the west. Read.
And showed me 6 great gates open corresponding to the eastern gates, opposite to where the sun sets.
Opposite to where the sun sets. Read.
According to the number of days, 365 and a quarter. Thus, again, it goes down to the western gates and draws away its light.
So that means as the sun is rising and setting, it's taking its light with it. Read.
The greatness of its brightness under the earth.
So it takes its brightness under the earth, which means that the sun does not turn off. It is so those people who say, well, when it's nighttime and it's daytime, you just flip a switch and it turn off. No, the sun does not shut off. It says that as it comes and goes, it takes its light with it. So in this case, it goes from the east to the west, under the earth, rising in the east on the underside of the earth, and setting in the west on the underside of the earth. Read.
Let me see. For since the crown of its shining is in heaven with the Lord, and guarded by 400 angels, while the sun goes around on a wheel under the earth.
It goes around on a wheel under the earth. Read.
And stands 7 great hours in night.
Oh, so the sun is gone and night comes. Read.
And spins itself under the earth.
So that's why on one side of the earth it's dark and on the other side of the earth it's light. It spins half its course atop the earth and half of its course under the earth. Does it make sense now? Does it make sense? Is everybody following? Put a 1 in the chat if it makes sense. Read.
When it comes to the eastern approach in the 8th hour of the night, it brings its lights. And the crown of shining, and the sun flames forth, and the sun flames forth more than fire.
So it spends its time under the earth, and then it rises back again in the east on the other side of the earth again. And it does that all year, all seasons, according to the time in which it's supposed to enter and exit its gates. Right? So this settles the confusion of why of the flat earth theory, right? One part of the earth is in light, the other part of the earth is in. See, the problem with this idea of the flat earth is it doesn't settle the idea or the issues or the problem with the lighting of Alaska. Alaska is, I believe, a third of the size of North America, right? So that means that it has many different time zones within it, right? There's some parts where it's completely dark for 6 months, and some places where it's completely light for 6 months. There's some days where there's certain times during the year where the days are extremely short and days are extremely long, and then they switch, right? The reason for this is because of its positioning on the sphere. So as the sun enters and exits its gates on the axis, it doesn't receive the same amount of light or the same amount of darkness as the other places on Earth. Hence the discrepancy with the light. There's also a discrepancy with the heat, because it's actually closer to the sun than most other places in the world. So even though the temperature could be 23 degrees, because the sun is so close at that time to the continent itself, it'll actually feel like 90. That's only possible on a sphere-shaped Earth, not on a flat one. But see how Enoch solves that issue as to why Alaska has those discrepancies and no other place really does? And people say that the Bible doesn't have science in it. Right? It's not flat, right? The earth rises in the east atop the earth, and then it sets in the west, taking its light to the eastern part of the bottom side of the earth, setting in the west and rising once again in the top sides east, all while entering and exiting 6 gates in the east and in the west. Read.
Yeah.
Oh, the sun received its light. I believe there's a final scripture. We read it all. Okay. Go ahead and get Enoch chapter 17, verse 1.
In the midst of the heavens, I saw armed soldiers serving the Lord with tympana and organs, with incessant voice, with sweet voice, with sweet incessant voice, and various singing, which is impossible to describe, and which astonishes my mind. So wonderful and marvelous is the singing of those angels, and I was delighted listening to it.
So not only in the fourth heaven is the cycles and the rotation of the cycles and the rotations of the heaven of the moon and the stars, but there's also a heavenly choir that exists there. Right? We read about these known as the morning stars in the book of Isaiah, where at the rising of the sun in the east, they sing unto the Most High. Right? So this is that choir that Isaiah speaks about in that particular context. Right? Final heaven of this part of the lesson. Let's get Enoch chapter 18, verse 1.
Enoch chapter 18, verse 1. The men took me to the fifth heaven and placed me, and there I saw many countless soldiers called Grigori.
Called Grigori. Pay attention to these Grigori. Read.
Of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of great giants, and their faces withered.
That means that they were old. They were old. They had old, stressed, and vexed look to them. Read.
And the silence of their mouth perpetual.
They said nothing. They did nothing. They were in limbo. That's what that means. They're just in waiting. It's almost like just sitting in a lobby. Imagine sitting in a lobby for a couple thousand years. So these people are sitting in wait for a judgment, right? And this is in the fifth heaven. Read.
And there was no service on the fifth heaven.
No service in the fifth heaven. They didn't serve the Most High in any way. They were just there. They did nothing. Nothing evil, nothing righteous. They were just there in limbo, waiting for judgment. Read.
And I said to the men who were with me, wherefore are these very withered, and their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent?
They weren't in any particular predicament. They weren't in suffering. They weren't in torture, but they weren't in a righteous location either. It was just sort of there. There was no judgment set upon them. That's why I said melancholy. There wasn't any look of pain, vex, frustration. They're just there. Like imagine somebody, an old person with just a meh face on. Just. But notice these men are described as what? Soldiers. Read.
And wherefore is there no service on this heaven?
Why do they not do? They're not doing evil or wicked. They're not doing wicked or good up here. What is going on? What's going on? What does the angel reply? Read.
And they said to me, these are the Grigori, who with their prince Satan rejected the Lord of light.
Their prince. So this says these are the Grigori who with their prince Satan rejected the Lord of light. So now we're seeing something here. Read.
And after them are those who are held in great darkness on the second heaven.
So they are of a lower rank than the angels that are bound in the second heaven. Remember, the second heaven is a prison. Those are the angels that followed Lucifer and sinned here on earth, right? In rebellion. These are a little different. They're of a lower rank than those angels. That means that there was a second falling after the first one. Remember, they saw the daughters of men that they were fair. But remember, there was already a rebellion in the heavens before they saw the daughters of men that they were fair. How many knows about that one? Remember the creation, the rebellion at creation between Lucifer? Yeah, stars were still falling afterward. These were Grigori fell later. Read.
And 3 of them went down to earth from the Lord's throne. To the
These are
place,
archangels. Three of them fell from three of them were archangels, and they fell from the Lord's throne. Read.
to the place Hermon, and broke their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of men how good they are, and took to themselves wives, and defiled the earth with their deeds, whom in all times of their age made lawlessness and mixing. And giants are born, and marvelous big men, and great enmity.
So now we're seeing what took place in the days of Noah. Read.
And therefore God judged them with great judgment, and they weep with their brethren, and they will be punished on the Lord's great day.
So these are the ones who are on the second heaven. Why are these just in limbo? They haven't been judged yet. And the reason why is because their offenses weren't of the rank of the offenses of those who fell, of the other fallen angels. They didn't have the rank. These were just soldiers, enforcers, if you would. So they didn't necessarily have an entirely significant role in the fall of Satan and the angels. They were simply a part of it. They were just soldiers. Therefore, they haven't had a full judgment yet. Their offenses weren't necessarily of the same, weren't exactly worthy of the same judgment as those who are in the second heaven. Read.
Verse 5. And I said to the Gregory, I saw your brethren and their works, and their great torments, and I prayed for them. But the Lord has condemned them to be under the earth until the existing heaven on earth shall end forever.
He said, okay, so I'm looking at you guys. I seen your brethren in the second heaven enduring torments, and I prayed for them. But they have a judgment already. They're going to be cast into the lake of fire. This is their judgment. But check out what he says to the Gregory. Read.
And I said, wherefore do you wait, brethren, and do not serve before the Lord's face, and have not put your services before the Lord's face, lest you anger your Lord utterly.
He's like, but you're in limbo. You haven't received a judgment yet. So he was like, you did wickedly, yes, but you haven't received a judgment. So why haven't you put your services before the Most High to appeal your judgment? Think about the stubborn nature. It's like, yeah, we did it.
And what?
We did it. And now we just waiting on our judgment. You know, nothing I can do, just but wait. Enoch is like, listen, your brethren are going. They're in torments right now in preparation for the judgment, but you haven't been judged yet. So why don't you just put your services before the Most High? Offer him your services again to appeal your judgment, because obviously you're sitting here. You don't have a place of judgment yet. What do? Read.
And they listened to my admonition and spoke to the four ranks in heaven. And lo, as I stood with those two men, four trumpets trumpeted together with great voice, and the Gregory broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before the Lord pitifully and affectionately.
They repented. They put their services before the Most High. They listened to Enoch and they put their services before the Most High. Right? So the fifth heaven, Enoch finds the Gregory, who are soldiers of Satan. They held a lower rank than the angels who served at the throne of the Most High and endured the torment, and those who endured the torments of the second heaven. These watchers, Gregory in the Hebrew means watchers. These watchers, however, are in limbo with no predetermined or present judgment one way or the other. Thus, Enoch informs them of their knowledge that they made a foolish decision in choosing Lucifer over the Most High, but asks them while they wait for their judgment to serve the Most High and repent. He said, listen, you're here. You've already did what you did, but at least make an appeal before the Most High. You're just sitting here doing nothing, just waiting to get judged. Obviously, if you're not being tormented, but you're not in a place of blessing, then you have no judgment yet. Your judgment has not been predetermined. So make an appeal. Right? He said, serve the Most High in limbo, or the Most High will become completely angered by them. It's like you're sitting here doing nothing, sitting in the mistake that you made. And the Most High is going to come back and be like, you know what? Just throw them down there. They're useless. They won't repent. And they did what they did. Might as well just cast them down. Just their judgment is, let's pencil it in. He says, listen, bro, y'all got a, it looks to me, Enoch basically says, it looks to me like you got a shot. Right? They took heed to his word and made repentance through song. Right? Now, this is where we will conclude part 1 of this lesson. We have 5 more heavens to go. I believe that's Enoch 19 through 23. So 3 more heavens left, 5 more heavens left. There's now this is where it gets a little bit more particular. There's a little bit more detail as we go forward into these next couple of parts. Do we have any questions?
That's why I was kind of raising my hand.
Oh, you should have wrote it down. Any questions, any inquiries in the chat or in the room?
Oh, I was going to say, I didn't realize the story about him on the donkey.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't realize that he was the reason why he got stopped. I thought he got stopped because I don't know how they taught us in the Christian faith,
Mm-hmm.
but it was something about like some kind of like miracle, the Lord showing him that like it was an angel there, or something like that. But I didn't know that he was like in a
Like an angel spoke. It's like an angel spoke.
Yeah, I thought that was like
Mhm.
the main point of the story, just to show that like the Most High, I don't know, it was like a miracle, Jesus gave his life.
Mhm.
That's what I thought. I didn't know it was because he was like,
Nah, he was about to cross a boundary.
yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, he didn't see that he was going to cross a boundary. The donkey saw it, right? And we went over this in the lesson on Issachar, the characteristics of a donkey. A lot of people think that donkeys are stubborn. Donkeys aren't stubborn. They're just smart. They can sense danger before it happens, or they can see a situation and understand how many things in that situation can go wrong that could lead to their death or their harm. So because of that, they may see something. It's like you're trying to walk them into a shed and they're like, hold up, bro. Could be snakes in there. Like, you take me in there, we both get bit, we both out of here. You know what I'm saying? They see things like that. So they're not stubborn. Like people like that. He never wants to go in the shed. It's like, because he knows something in that shed or something could be in that shed. Right? And this wasn't something that Balaam understood. Balaam just thought, man, this is trying to make a fool out of me. When the donkey was like, bro, you don't see this? You don't see that big behind angel there about to take your head off? Right? So and we know that the Ark of the Covenant is guarded similarly. Right? Anyone who tries to approach or go near the Ark of the Covenant, we've seen it. Have you guys seen Indiana Jones? Right?
It goes back to like the similarities. We're talking about like the angels,
Mhm.
stuff like that, how they named
Mhm.
the Greeks, how they named the planets and all that stuff. Like all the little details that they got.
Mm-hmm.
Or even like in Hercules, they had like the little holding place called the
Mm-hmm.
Titans.
Mm-hmm. 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 Yeah, all of those things, even the Kraken, like even Olympus. How do you know that Olympus exists? We're gonna get into that when we go into the next 5 heavens. Olympus is an actual place, right? So a lot of what we see is different renditions of what they know already exists. This is why Josephus was able to have a discourse to the Greeks concerning Hades, because guess what? They knew about Hades. These are all things that they knew about. This is all things that they understood. This was general knowledge, right? And essentially, the reason why we wanted to do a particular breakdown on this, because there's a lot of misconceptions, particularly about heaven. Like I said, a lot of people say, yeah, I want to go to heaven. I'm like, bro, like, hold up. There's different parts of heaven, man. Like it's the same thing. Like I said, we said last week, Hades is not an entirely bad thing, even though we were taught that Hades is a bad thing, right? And it's the same thing with heaven. We're taught hell is bad, heaven is good, oversimplifying it. Not realizing that, well, there's neighborhoods within Hades and there's neighborhoods and different spaces within heaven as well, right? So even like, and particularly that's why I dug so deep into the breakdown of the celestials, because I skipped over the moon, right? They go into the moon's courses as well, but the reason why I skipped over the moon is because I wanted to touch on particularly the construct as it pertains to the sun, right? Sort of giving context to what it is that we see. How many times? It says no. Okay, he says there's no sound.
Oh, hold on, let me see something.
One, two, three. Well, the sound say it's working.
Yeah, it says it. Can you hear us now?
It's interesting. Okay.
Thanks,
yeah,
Bishop. Thank you, Bishop.
The water, Bishop Michael. Bishop Michael, where did we cut out? Where did the sound cut out? Let us know where the sound cut out so I can go back and make sure that people can hear.
Oh, so
Okay.
I would just keep
Okay.
going.
So yeah, basically the observatory that they went into, that's essentially what Enoch describes, right? It's like an observatory almost. The sun is on a wheel and it has its gears, and during certain times of the year it moves and it exits and enters. Now, Enoch makes it also states that the sun is that the giver of light provides light for the sun. I believe it's somewhere. Let me see. Because I know I'm sure you read it. I think I just missed it when you read it. It's somewhere in here. Yeah, I'm gonna find it somewhere here, and then when I do, I'll go back over it in the next part. But essentially, what it states is that the giver of light, or Christ, is the one who provides the sun with its light. Right? It's almost like a charge that he gives it. Yeah, I'm mad I missed that though. It's somewhere in here. When I find it, I'll go over it. But the intricacies of heaven itself and the different levels to it, sort of, I wish we have an artist. Essentially, what we'll have to do is I have to sit down with you and see if we can draw something. Because the problem with it is that you try to visualize it in your mind, and you try to find something like it and search it up, but it's impossible to find because no one has seen heaven talked about like this. So there's no way to actually see and visualize or contextualize what it is that's being described here. So if we could have an artist draw it, so that way people can get an actual blueprint as to what it is that they're seeing. Okay, we're
trying to see which one this was.
Okay, somewhere in here. And the crown of it shining.
It's down here. Giver of light, who was Christ.
Okay, so it's
It was One of the Enochs.
And again, they led me away to the eastern gates, then down to the western gates, crown of it shining, heaven of the Lord, guarded by the angels. The sun
Receives his light from the giver of light, who was Christ.
It's somewhere written in here, though, that I can't find, which is frustrating because I know it's here.
Just keep going.
But like I said, I'll find it. I'll find it at some point and I'll bring it out. But yeah, we'll have to sit down and sort of see if we can sort of sketch out what it is that's being talked about here, because it's pretty interesting overall, seeing the details of it, and also seeing, you know, the extent of it, right? You have the heavens outside of the firmament, you have the heavens inside of the firmament, you have the heavens on earth, you have the heavens within earth, and you have the heavens that are just under the firmament. So there's different levels and different parts of it. But what we're going to see here, even here, once the angels reach the seventh heaven with Enoch, they have to pass them off to a higher ranked angel, because they don't have clearance to go any higher than go any further than where they were. They're like, listen, this is where we stop. And they turn Enoch over to the angel Gabriel. And once they reach the Most High, he actually sits and communes with the Most High and has a conversation with him concerning, number one, all the things Gabriel delivers unto Enoch, all the books. It's almost like if the elder here was an architect, right? He drew everything up, right? Has the entire foundations of the blueprints of the earth in this book, and he basically gives the book to me, and he tells me to give it to someone else, and he's like, all right, look at everything in here, copy it all down, and put it in a book and give it to the people. That's essentially what happened. The Most High had the blueprints of the foundations of the heavens of the earth, and Enoch got to read them. So essentially, every sickness concerning man, everything about the human anatomy, Enoch learned. Everything about every animal's anatomy, Enoch learned. Everything about every tree, every plant, the foundations of the earth, every mineral, every single thing about that involves creation in the heavens or in the earth, Enoch knew. Not to mention, he also got to sit down and have a conversation with the Most High. So that's pretty, I mean, oh, but he had to be transfigured first. We're going to see that as well. He had to be transfigured. He had to put on immortality in order to be able to do that. So we know Enoch was caught up. He was changed, never seen again. And this is sort of essentially what happened here. The Most High basically invited him up to stay with him for a while. Right? But this change that we see from Enoch, the transfiguration, is exactly what those who endure will experience. Because we don't die and go on the ground, we'll have to be changed physically, right? So do we have any other questions or comments?
Doesn't he stay in one of the levels?
Enoch? Yes. He is between the third heaven. He's somewhere between the third. He travels between the third heaven and the 8, 9, 10 area. So Enoch has access. Enoch goes places.
Because then when he was like, they were walking him,
Mm-hmm.
he walked to like snow,
Mm-hmm.
and that's what he was disappearing at.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of interesting to me because of the third heavens here on Earth. He probably was going towards Antarctica.
Mm-hmm.
Type thing.
Where he was taken was where the storehouses. He was taken up into a cloud.
Yes, I mean, like,
So, yeah.
the storehouse is there,
Yeah.
that's a part of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Had to take
In that area. Yeah. So that storehouse had to open, which is why there was snow left when he was taken. Right. So all of these things are confirmed and talked about within the scriptures. Like I said, the book is full of the Bible is full of science and understanding. Even then, when we look at the way time is set up, we have 365 days, right? 365 days in a year. And then you have 365 days in a year, 24-hour days, 60-minute hours. Whereas it's actually cut down. You take away 6 hours and you add 20 minutes to each hour. So it's actually 18 hours and 80-minute hours, according to time. Which is why when Christ said that, are there not 12 hours in the day, he was not talking about a 24-hour day. He was talking about a particular time and season that he was living in. At that particular time, it was 12 parts day, and 12 parts day, and I believe 6 parts night. right? So yeah, there's a lot of different intricacies and understandings to that, but I wanted to go over that particularly because last week when we ran across something in Josephus that discredited the reincarnation. And oddly enough, the elder and I had lessons planned that were coming up that was supposed to be on reincarnation and the flat earth deception. So both of which actually showed up in our lessons on torment and in our lessons on Hades, hell, and the underworld, and this one. So we're able to address both. But even then, like that even the way just describing it is kind of odd. But vertically, if the Earth is still, even if you talk about the flat Earth and it's not like this, you want to put it like this, like, bro, what is that? But in order for it to be able to circulate vertically, especially going in and out of gates, guess what the sun is doing? Look at this. If this is the sun, so all of its rotations in a circular motion, if it's entering and exits gates, is in a spherical motion.
I think like science, like pretty much says that black holes like a portal.
Mm-hmm. Black holes are portals from one place to another. It sucks you in and spits you out somewhere else. Yeah, everything enters and exits some form of portal. There's a lot of them. There's a lot of them throughout the earth that we don't see. They're starting to. They talk about wormholes and different things like that. Different words, just different words for portals, but those are a part of the creation as well. Every heaven that you go to puts you closer and closer to the Most High's presence. Even when you talk about the months, the days and the months, where they talk about the zodiacs, those are portals. Zodiacs are portals. There's an angel set over each gate. There's 12 gates for the months, right? Because remember, there's 12 gates that the sun enters and exits through, and those are the same gates in which souls, when a child is born or when a person is born, the soul or conceived, the Most High sends that soul through a portal, right? And that portal is essentially who that person is. Their characteristics are taken on based off of the time of year that they were born in. The Most High didn't have us to know this because you weren't supposed to get to know somebody based off of what their zodiac sign is. You can manipulate somebody if you know their zodiac sign. Oh, this is what they like. This is what they don't like. This is how they like to be talked to. This is what they don't like. This is how they don't like to be talked to. Now I can get Cupid and make you fall in love because I know that this zodiac is compatible with this zodiac, right? We weren't supposed to know that. That wasn't knowledge that we were supposed to have. And how do we know that wasn't knowledge that we're supposed to have? Because of the way that we're using it. The way that we use that knowledge is wickedness, right? But even those are portals that souls are sent through, right? And what's so amazing about this is you see how mechanical and how mechanical the inner workings of creation are, showing that the Most High is an architect. He's a mastermind, right? He thought of everything. And he set up, and not to mention, we fashion the things that we create after the way that he fashioned it. Right? And half the time, we don't even know that we've done it. Right? So yeah, this is part 1 of this particular lesson. We'll be finishing up the final 5 heavens in another lesson, but it only gets more interesting from here. But I strongly suggest after we finish this lesson, though, we don't go all the way through and finish the second book of Enoch, but I would suggest that you go through because the Most High actually gives Enoch his logic as to why he decided to turn what was originally nothing into something physical, right? He conceived it in his mind to do that, and why he conceived it in his mind to do that, and how he started the process to doing that, right? So, yeah. Oh, do you got anything?
No, sir.
Does anybody in the room have anything? Any more questions, comments, thoughts? All right. the water for tuning in on this Sabbath. We appreciate you all. Praise to the, once again, we'd like to give all praise to the Most High, Ahaya, Bahashem Yeshaya, Warawak. For those who do not speak the Hebrew, that is the Father, the Most High, who is Ahaya, Ashah, Ahaya, the Son, who is Yeshaya, and his Spirit, which is the Rawak. And we would also like to send a shout out to all of our brothers and sisters. We have brothers out there in Australia, out there in the Philippines, our brothers out there in the Hawaiian Islands, in Central and South America, in the Caribbean, and our brothers and sisters obviously out there in Sierra Leone and in Africa. We love you. We appreciate you for doing the work out there and holding it down. If this ministry has blessed you and you would like to support the work, tithes and donations right here. We can't do it without you. There's places that we're trying to go. We got a baptism that we want to do, and in California. We also are trying to get down to Central and South America to establish churches as well. We also have work that other places in the United States that we have to get to do baptism. So any support that you can offer this work, we would appreciate it. We also have our website here below. Those who would like to be baptized and would like to be baptized into this ministry, go to houseofjudahfellowship.org and get in contact with the elder, and we can set something up depending on what area you may be in.
The next one is going to be in December, right?
The next one, I believe, is December or March, one of the two.
Okay.
December or March, one of the two. So definitely let us know down there. Get registered on the site as well. We're trying to figure out where everyone who's following the churches are, so we can sort of get an idea as to where we need to be as well. Because some places have more people that are following the church than others. We know there's a lot of House of Judah in Australia, so we know that's one of the places that we have to hit.
Yeah.
So to sort of figure that out, we're going to have, when you register, we're going to have a little spot there. We're going to have a little spot there where it says to put in your city or your location, so that way we can figure out where everybody is and know where we need to go to do the work. All right. Any other, anything else that we need to touch on?
No, sir. I'm just trying to see what we all got here in the chat.
All right.
Everything's pretty good here. We're good.
All right. So with that, we will say shalom. Bless you all. Thank you for tuning in today. We'll be back next week. Everyone have a blessed Sabbath and stay safe. All right. Week after next Sabbath with the next lesson. All right. Shabbat shalom, everybody.
Shabbat shalom.